as how many days. So I'm thinking that maybe I need to double check on that and make sure. But as far as the research I've done so far, I have not found a specific time frame.
Okay. How many students in your district?
About 18,000.
Okay. Okay.
I
Probably
think.
a little smaller.
No, I got
Yeah.
that wrong. I'm sorry, about 11,000. It's
Yeah.
smaller than that. Yeah.
Yeah. About 11,000.
Mhm.
Definitely smaller than the first two. So I think what you'll find is the smaller school districts, there's not as many people wanting to do research. And so the process is just a little bit less cumbersome, I would think.
Mhm.
All right, good. Great. All right, who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Okay, Jonathan,
I need to share my screen.
that'd be great.
All right, let's see. Everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So it was pretty much two different variations of the research process for it. One was to be considered internal and the other was external.
Okay.
The internal one is kind of a piece where we get just our own data from our school, and we did need approval about that. You can submit it to the research review committee, but you can still do the research when it's local at your own school, and it's things like your own PLC and that type of research. But when it extends to data beyond your school, they said consider it as an external source, especially if you're doing it for a secondary degree, master's, dissertation. So therefore, so you would come here to your external resource, and it would, in this process, it didn't give a timeline about how long or when you should apply. You can apply anytime during the year. But the main thing was GCS has authority over the data. Basically, any findings that they can use. And that it could be held, the data could be withheld for 6 months. So they can hold that information and not release it to you for up to 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you better make some friends.
Well, I also, I had another friend that just got her doctorate. She said she didn't have to do anything. She said she just went through UNCG. They didn't have to fill out anything. They just did it through the school and they were done. But she did hers, I think, with special needs. And then, the person that I actually talked to sent me this link that just completed it as a central office person. And they just graduated maybe 2 months ago with their doctorate. So I'm going with the more recent thing that I'll fill out the research review committee. We don't have to pass the IRB or get approved by the IRB just to submit this. But it's a pretty straight up application here. You just fill out the proposed information here, consent forms, notification of denial or acceptance, and pretty much the cost. GCS is willing to take on the cost, saying that the benefits outweigh how much it actually costs to conduct the research and the manpower for it.
Okay. So, you have to have your consent forms and all that. So you will have to be pretty close to proposal defense before you can go ahead and fill this out, but at least you don't have to wait. So that's good. That's good news, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm. And I do have a few folks I can talk to see,
Good.
if I've made a mistake.
Yeah. Well, particularly when you get closer to it, the time, it would be good just to reach out and make a connection, lets them know that you're going to be submitting an application, etc.
They also give us the name of the committee here, the research review committee members, the chair,
good.
and those 6 people who you would actually email directly if we had questions. So it kind of lays it all out here for us.
Great. All right. Great news. Okay. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
Okay. Hey, Jamie.
Hey. Let's see. I believe this is the right one. Alrighty. Oops, I'm sharing this. Hang on. All right, let me open this up. If I can get to the right tab.
I was seeing something. There you go.
There it is. Okay. So for us, yeah, I'm just trying to be able to move it now. There we go. Okay. So for us, there's not a time frame either. It just says that they have to be submitted in the paperwork that I was provided. It talks about research that requires approval and research that doesn't require approval. So it lays that out, and then it kind of tells you here's what you have to present, and it is a review committee as well that has to take your proposal and look at it and approve it. It's down here as we move on, but I think it's the assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction that leads the committee, and that's who it's all submitted to. But it tells you, it gives you what to write, but then as you scroll down, there's actually an application as well. So that basically lists everything and you fill it out. But you can see it says maximum of 3 pages, description of the study, all the stuff that we would expect that we had to share. It talks about consent forms if students or parents are being, are a part of the research.
Jamie, I'm just curious, what kind of research does not require?
Oh, I can slide back up here. It is, so I guess for when using the public information stuff,
Okay.
the scores, anything like that. And then employees as part of their normal job responsibilities. It says it here, research exempted from requirements by the process. When except for information when student teacher files are required, in this case the institution required to notify. So basically just basically the public information, like when we had to do the SPA, that's when I was actually given this, and it fell under research not requiring approval.
Okay, good.
But then as we go on down, it talks about consent, making sure people know, and then it talks about who reviews it. There's the assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction. They appoint the research committee. It doesn't tell you a chair. It doesn't tell you who they are. I don't know, as I read it, I'm not certain that it's one committee or if it's per, it almost reads like it's per submission. They assign somebody to look at it. So I'm not sure.
And I will tell you this, when I worked in the school district as assistant superintendent for instruction, I was always over this process, but I would have an ad hoc committee.
Right.
Depending on the topic and the nature of the study, I would invite people to come onto the committee.
And that's what this says. It does say that people are assigned, can be assigned based on what the proposal is about. So that makes sense that you say that. And that's kind of how I read it. So and then of course the implementation, and it tells what they, that they will give feedback. It does say, and I noticed this, the findings of the study must be shared with the chair of the research committee before it can be released for publication, public access, or whatever the case may be. So we have to share the stuff, information with them first.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the research review committee must be provided any documentation written or otherwise for review prior to release, again, to protect the rights of the Randolph County school system as it's written there. So
okay, so what happens if you send them your dissertation
and they don't like it?
And they don't like it?
I'm not sure, which, with mine, I'm going to be, I mean, I would only be using public information from the school,
Okay.
but I would be, and I'm gonna be using a survey for principals across the state. So for
Yeah.
me, it may not really apply. It's a great question of, if it did apply, like, can they just say no? I mean, according to this, they can, but.
Yeah. Wow.
But then it tells you again who to, well, it doesn't give a name, but it shows you how to send it in and ask questions. And then you get down, this is what I was saying, like it tells you it's the actual application. And then you can add stuff to it, and then it gives you the actual consent forms to use. And I think that, well, then it talks about, I guess that they base it on, it's what what their committee reviews based on Joint Commission standards, and then they share
Mhm.
that as an appendix. So,
So let's look
it's-
at those consent forms just a minute.
Yep.
Are those the consent forms that they require you to use within the district?
Yes, so there's one consent form. B is for the parent or guardian research.
Okay.
And then C is for non-students and students 18 or over. And I think A is for students. Project name. Well, see, that's the application form A. Maybe it's down here. There is one for students. Well, actually, it's not showing. It says there is one, but to be completed by non-student participants or student participants 18 and older, but is this not? Oh, that's the parent. Yeah, that's the parent release for under 18. So
Yeah.
if it's students under 18, yeah. So
Right.
those are the two forms.
Okay.
Yep. And that is, I mean, I guess that's specific to their district, to our district.
So what they're going to look at,
Mhm.
not yours, because I don't think yours would go through this process, but if it did, they would look through your whole dissertation and make sure that Randolph County was not identified in any way.
Right.
They would also look to see that you had used these consent forms.
Right.
And that may be a little tricky for you because you have to use the consent forms that meet all the criteria for Gardner-Webb's IRB. So
Right.
that may be a little tricky. I didn't look at them
Mhm.
thoroughly, but
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I remember when my principal was doing her doctorate, not in my previous district, and she was hitting something like that. And I don't know, but where it was like there were basically she ended up doing two consent forms for it was a certain group, though. I can't remember if it was students or, but I remember her talking about having to basically have parents sign two different forms. So.
yeah, it probably was a consent form for her organization and one for Gardner-Webb.
For the district or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Who's next? Thomas, can you get on?
Dr.
No, you
Rivers,
were-
I'm sorry, I had a quick question.
Sure.
Is that a likely situation that some of us may run into where we do need to get consent for Gardner-Webb's IRB and for our district?
Yes, you always will have to get Gardner-Webb's IRB approved.
Okay. Okay.
And
that wouldn't be the same form sometimes or possibly? No.
It's very, very possibly it will be the same information.
Okay.
So that's why when you set your date for proposal defense, and I say, if I'm your chair, which I can be, typically I am, but you can ask for someone else. When we set our date for proposal and you're ready to send that off to your committee, you've got 2 weeks. You have to send it 2 weeks before proposal. Okay. During that time, that's when you work on your IRB from Gardner-Webb. And now you probably don't know this about me, but I'll tell you this right up front. I'm very picky. I will not let you go to proposal until you're ready. All right. And it's not unusual for us to go back and forth on each chapter and do 5 to 8 revisions. That's the process, okay? But I'm not going to let you go until you're ready. And, but, I have some pretty good success rate with getting people through proposal defense. I have real good success rate with getting people through IRB because I'm a detailed oriented person and I know what they're looking for and I try my best. The first time we send it in, it needs to be right. We're not going to waste everybody's time. Okay. We may waste each other's time, but we're not going to waste their time. So, we can get it through and get it through quickly. It's just a matter of making sure we have every detail done during that 2-week window. And then you just save it until that committee signs off on your proposal. And then we shoot it to the IRB committee. Okay. So at least you're not going to be sitting there twiddling your thumbs between the two of us. You may have to wait 90 days, Sarah, in your district, but you will not have to do that between the two of us. Okay. Thomas, are you there?
I know in the chat, he said he had some technical issues.
Okay. All right. And I saw Janet come online for just a moment. Janet, are you there? I wasn't sure. I'm getting a message. Thomas is sending me. All right. He literally has a work order in place as we speak about his technical issues. Okay. That's okay, Thomas. Sometimes you have to do the wonderful world of technology. Do you want to talk to us through your phone? Can you do that?
What if I try to call him and see if I can put him on speakerphone through
Yeah.
my computer?
Why don't you do that and we'll see.
Let me do that.
When is your first weekend for the summer, residency weekend?
Well, we already
Alright.
had our first one, and that
Okay.
was June 3rd and 4th. And the other one was canceled. We were going to go twice in July, but the only one that we have now is July 22nd and 23rd. So that'll be our last one.
All right. Well, that's great.
Dr. Revis, I have Thomas on the phone now.
Okay. See if you can get him to come through.
Can you guys go ahead, Thomas?
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
We do.
Yep. So sorry, I have the raggediest computer in the history of the world right now. And yeah, I'm just trying to make it work. So I heard nothing that was going on. I hope everybody's doing great. Where are y'all at right now? I'm sorry.
We just got done sharing, Thomas, some of the things that we found out for doing our research for each county. So everybody kind of shared the specifics of it, how far in advance you need to do it, when the cutoff is, if it costs you anything, any minutia or details that you need to be aware of.
I can try to share. It doesn't cost us anything in our county, but it does has to be done at least I think 90 days out. The process, it has to go before a committee and they have to approve it, and they'll let you know if it's okay to go forward. And then on the back end, I think that it's a certain amount of time, and I'm sorry I didn't get that amount of time, but it's a certain amount of time that's good for it, and you actually have to do it again because it runs out. So I know it's a quick turnaround time, so it's one of those things where I have to have, you have to be ready to move forward, or else you'll be timed out. So that's kind of what I gathered in our county.
Jonathan, ask him can he hear me? Can you hear me,
Yeah.
Thomas? Okay, great. Thomas, do you have any windows of time that you can only submit during a window?
They said that as long as it has to be, what is it? Hold on, no, I thought I had that. No, they didn't say anything in particular about, to get, they don't do anything over the summer. I know that. They said it has to be within the school year. Yeah. So that's
Okay,
as far as
so-
the window, just for the school year, and it has to, like I said, the committee has to be able to come together. So that's definitely during the school year.
Okay, so just be mindful of that when you get ready to get to your proposal defense, that if you propose at the end of the summer, you're gonna have to wait till school starts to get that
Yes, ma'am.
application in. And then you're sitting on it for 90 days, up to 90 days.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Sorry,
Well-
guys.
that's okay. Thank you. We can hear you perfectly.
Gotcha. Thanks, Tom.
No problem.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate you doing that. All right, guys. Everybody has shared, I think, that's with us. So let me share my screen one more time. And I want to go back to week 8. Week 8, you've got your last coaching session sign up. So be sure you meet the deadline. Your deadline to sign up is Sunday, July the 9th at 9 p.m. And some of you've already signed up. Yay. But what happens when it hits 9 p.m. on Sunday, July the 9th, I'm going to shut it down so that, and I print it off. And then that way you can't go in and do anything. And you'll have to email me personally, if you want to sign up, because I think it happened last time. I pulled it off, and then because the deadline was already passed, and then somebody signed up and I didn't realize that. So it's going to be to the point where you can't do anything. When it hits this deadline, you'll have to email me. And that way I know that you need to sign up and we can just talk about it. And so I'm really looking forward to having some good questions on this one. I think, Sonia, you're the only one who signed up for an optional session, which is fine. That's no problem whatsoever, because that deadline passed this past Sunday. Okay, well, if there are no questions, everybody kind of knows a preview of what we've got to do between now and end of the semester. Guys, I cannot emphasize enough about some of your readings. I don't go over them, but for example, this is week 8, you have a reading about the purpose statement. And this would be a good thing for you to look over just for the information as you are crafting your purpose statement for your chapter 1. This one gives you a good how to write a narrative hook, introduction narrative hook for your chapter 1. So you don't have to turn it in, but it would be a good thing for you to look at. So even though you're not having to turn these in, still it's something that you need to do to help move you forward. And then here are the textbooks for next semester. I'm just looking very quickly. I don't think there's anything new in there, is there? I don't think there's anything new. And all of these books are really good because it's a lot about the different pieces and the different sections. And no, you don't have this one, the Cresswell one, do you? You might want to look and make sure. I think that may actually be the one that you will have to purchase for your other class. But just look and see if it's not the same one, because you're going to get into research and methodology in the fall. And I can't wait because then I think some of you are really ready for that. Very ready for it. Particularly when you start talking about the alignment table. Some of you are very ready for that. So not to try to wish your summer away, but I think once you have the fall class, it's gonna really click for you. It really will. Okay, guys. Until I see you again, the next time will be face to face in our last coaching conference. But if you have any questions, as always, please reach out to me. Anyone else have anything for the full group? Okay, good night.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.